Happy and his pal, a robotic stowaway named Half, are on a mission. Find whoever stole Half's missing pieces and get those pieces back. After promising each other that they'd pursue even the faintest of clues to the furthest of corners, our spacefaring duo have bounced from one adventure to the next, hoping that eventually they'll end up in the right place at the right time. Their next stop, a tiny little oasis on a giant planet of star-spewing volcanoes, a place where robots melt and humans bake, and magic-imbued stars rule the land, or so they think. Happy Astronaut is perfect for readers of all ages, filled with action, humor, and heart. This debut issue will have many exciting covers to choose from, including a blank sketch cover variant to commission your very own cover.
Recorded live from the secret underground lair of Crimson Cowl Comics and Collectibles, this is the Crimson Cowl Comic Club Podcast.
The following issues may contain spoilers. No ninja will be harmed in the recording of this podcast. I'm Anthony.
I'm Eric.
Kirby.
I'm David.
And I'm Katie.
Welcome to issue number 271 of the Crimson Cowl Comic Club Podcast. Each and every week, we meet here to talk about comic books. On this particular show, we do have some club discussions. We're going to be talking about The Punisher, issue number 12. That's why we have the resident Punisher fan, Eric, here sharing the Zoom window if you're watching on video. Or if the video doesn't work, then you'll never see this ever. But you will definitely hear this. And then we're also going to do issue number 7 of Once Upon a Time at the End of the World. Then we're going to do a round of weekly reviews, and that will be our episode. If you are catching this video, if this actually does work, we are recording outside at a patio party that Crimson Cowl Comic Club is having. And so if you do see this video, you're going to see some different backgrounds from all of us. These aren't green screens. These are real in-person backgrounds. Because of the occasion, Eric, how's it feel to be in person with the Crimson Cowl Comic Club? Any thoughts?
I missed this, Dad.
How about you, Kirby? You're here live. Everyone's around you. There's air. There's bugs. How you feeling?
Yeah, it brings back good old times, memories. Long time away.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. David's holding a parasol if you're looking at the video, or it makes it look like that. How are you feeling here? And thank you for hosting this space, by the way. How's it going, David?
Good, good. Yeah, I don't think I think the closest we came to doing it in person was the 200th episode, which I never did put the video on. Still have it. I'll have to do that, when we do the 300th, I'll play the video for the 200th. Where at least you, me, and Kurt were in person. The rest of us were not. But otherwise, I don't think we've done a full in person in about 3 years.
And here we are. And let's jump over to Katie. How you feeling today in this in-person comic club?
Good. It's a little surreal, but I like it. It's nice. It's nice. It's the way it should be.
There we go.
Back to our roots.
Good. All right. And if you look closely, you might be able to see some roots in the back with the trees and stuff like that. Okay, anyways, let's move on to the actual business here. We're going to talk about some club discussions. The finale.
I know, I was about to say, I mean, now that you're in person, I realize I can start smacking you.
That's right. I always had the safety of saying whatever I wanted, and then he was always just on the other side of the screen. Now I have to watch my words.
Yeah,
Oh, and David, you want to hand me something? Oh, wait, we're not going to do that either. So, okay, so here we go. Let's jump into it. Issue number 12 of The Punisher. I'll do a little recap, and then I'll hand it over to Eric. The cult of assassins known as the Hand made Frank Castle an offer he couldn't refuse. The wind turned my paper. Become their high slayer in exchange for the resurrection of his long-dead wife, Maria. Frank has served as the Hand's fist of the beast, residing in their fortress in Japan, along with Maria, who has been struggling to remember her past. Frank has also manifested supernatural abilities due to his connection to the demonic beast. Doctor Strange, Captain America, Moon Knight, Wolverine, and Black Widow confronted Frank over his recent actions, but he was able to overpower them using his new powers and escape. Vowing that his war on crime was finally over, Frank returned to the Hand's fortress and sought out Maria. This is the last paragraph, everybody. Maria, who was on the verge of divorcing Frank on the day she was killed, finally discerned the truth of her own tragic past. When Frank returned to her, Maria shot him multiple times with the mystic handgun Frank crafted to kill Ares. Enraged by all he has done in the name of their family, the King of Killers, epilogue, Punisher no more. Eric, hold it together. This story is done by Jason Aaron, Jesus Saiz, Paula Zaceta, Matt Hollingsworth, VC's Corey Petit, and that is that. So this is the final issue of this particular run of the Punisher, and maybe the Punisher forever. Let's find out. Eric, take us through this journey.
All right. So anyways, like they just said in the recap, Punisher got shot by his wife. That's one hell of a domestic dispute right there. So as he's lying there dying, Archpriestess comes basically telling him that she's so ashamed of him for, not killing the kid from last issue. So she goes on to say, you failed me, but I'm just going to kill you, bring you back, and not bring Maria back this time. But that doesn't necessarily go the way she expects, because Frank still has some power from the beast, enough to cause her intense pain and destroy the mystical handgun that was made out of the beast's weapon. Just as the Archpriestess leaves, just decide, yeah, basically like, nope, don't want to be here anymore. Along comes the posse, led by Doctor Strange, Wolverine, Captain America. And Frank thinks he's about to die, so he just says, War Journal, final entry, no damn regrets. Then we get to cut back to a nice sequence of a flashback where it appears to be after his, the funeral for his family. Goes into a bar, and bartenders, basically tell him like, this is a mob bar, and this is family business. You need to leave. And of course, Frank knew that. So just as about they're ready to have fun with him, he decides to start his war on crime. Not even the Punisher yet, but basically decides to do a hit on the mob. Very effective one. Then it cuts back to the present, where Frank finds out he's still alive. And Doctor Strange basically tells him, you're in the basement of my sanctum, you're chained up. Right now, we're trying to figure out what to do with you. And Frank basically tells him that, yeah, it doesn't matter. Everything that I did, I would do it again. The hands was a means to an end.
Okay, I just want to insert this real quick because I don't know where this is going. Just to guess. They decide to launch him into space, and pretty soon we're going to have the Planet Punisher storyline.
If only.
Followed soon by World War Punisher.
World War Frank, WWF.
Couldn't be any worse than Frankencastle. But so we find out that basically, just Doctor Strange is like, we're trying to figure out what to do with you. Here are the bullets that we dug out of you, almost didn't save you. And also tries to warn Frank that Maria being alive is an aberration. And he's like, don't touch her. Basically, it's not her fault. So Doctor Strange leaves. Wolverine decides to try to talk with the Punisher. Very, very fruitful. Just basically is Wolverine's like, give me a reason not to kill you. Frank just antagonizes him. And Wolverine, he's known for his calm demeanor. So
Yes.
talks to Natasha. Basically says, yeah, we've worked together. I'm not coming back from it. Yeah, when we worked together, though, you were basically just a weapon. So, and even talking to her, basically says, tell Doctor Strange, leave Maria alone. She's already had enough suffering. Next comes in Moon Knight. trying to talk to Frank again, trying to understand. Frank doesn't say anything. It basically just, Moon Knight trying to figure out what's going on. And it's like, I'll do what I can for you. Which is funny because last time, which was in Matt Rosenberg's run, when they met each other, Frank was like, "How's your false moon god?" "Great." And Moon Knight was like, "How's your dead family?" And Frank was like, "Great." So it's like, you see what kind of a relationship those two have. It's a beautiful thing.
It's just the making of a sitcom right there.
Oh yeah, I'd watch that for hours. Then we cut to another flashback where like the last man left who had killed or was involved in the death of Frank's family was being led to the gas chamber. And basically you can tell the guy's unrepentant. But then they start hearing gunfire, shots, lots of loud noises. They're worried that it's a breakout. No, it's a break-in. And they discover the Punisher, he wants to be the one to kill the final killer of his family. And he succeeds because as much as they try to, as prisons are designed to keep people from breaking out, well, you know where the doors are from the outside. Final person to talk to Frank, not Captain America like he expects, but his wife, Maria, comes back. And she basically comes back to tell him what she was going to tell him, on the fateful day in the park. Basically says, "I'm done with this relationship. I want a divorce." And she explains to him that in this divorce settlement, she's getting some really good alimony. Because as it turns out, Natasha was able to find all of his safe houses, as well as, weapons, ammo, all of his equipment, and liquidate them. So, like she says, the real estate alone fetched quite the price.
He had this amazing troll doll collection and all of his Beanie Babies and all that stuff.
Probably. I never found out what happened to Max's old dog, the pit bull. Probably dead by now, but sad. I usually want the dog to live. But yeah, as it turns out, so yeah, she got all of his assets liquidated, and basically said, "I'm taking half. The other half, I'm donating to charities in our children's name." And basically telling him that's how we're going to remember our children, not killing people. So basically she's like, "I'm done, and if you die, please stay dead." So it's like, oof. As she leaves, you see him reach for the bullets that were left by Dr. Strange. And he makes a final prayer to the beast because apparently there's still power in the bullets. Captain America decides to come in, basically say, "We've had a vote, wasn't unanimous, and this is what we're going to do." Punisher says, Captain Rogers, he still respects Captain America, basically says, "I don't need to hear your judgment. Come up with my own sentence." Uses what's left in the power of the bullets to just completely disappear. And Dr. Strange basically says, "From what I see, he's no longer on this plane of existence." He says, "The Punisher is no more."
And this is when Eric went into a coma, and about a week later, he finished the rest of this issue, just for time-wise, so we know what's going on.
Anyway, so then you then see that the Archpriestess is not done. She visits a young boy in a prison cell who apparently killed the parents and left lots of traps for police trying to get to him. And he just says, "This is what I was born to do." And she shows up with the 3 knives. "Does one of these belong to you?" So that story probably isn't over. Then we cut to Maria, where she has quite the haul. Some duffel bags full of Benjamins, really full. And also we find that she has in that duffel bag a positive pregnancy test.
Oh.
So Maria, in this case, she gets to have her happy ending. we then cut to Frank. You know, it's not in the distant past, but in the past where he was given where the archpriestess brought the knives and said, "Do you see anything that belongs to you?" And you find that Maria was brought with her. And, you know, of course, he doesn't believe it at first, but then she talks to him. It's like, "I remember you're the one who keeps us safe, aren't you, Frank?" And then you see him hugging. And that's sort of the end. But then Jason Aaron, he leaves, you know, basically a conclusion. Basically says that this is you know, he thanks the people who drew it. And he says that this is a story he's wanted to tell. Many ninja were harmed in the making of this comic. And basically states that the Punisher's symbol has been, you know, mean many things to different people. Some he agrees with, others he doesn't. But he still loves the character of Frank, and that Frank was also always meant to be a tragedy. Always meant to be a tragedy. Definitely is Frank's story.
And now what David
is
was
Frank's
talking
story.
about.
And then in the end, we find there's an epilogue. And then in the end, we find his story isn't completely done. His story. We find out that with his last bit of power, he transported himself to Weird World, where there is a lot of fighting going on. And essentially, what he's doing here, he's rounding up orphans, the innocent, and he's working to bring them to a shelter, take care of them. I asked, "Do you know who you are?" He says, "Frank, call me Frank."
Frank N. Stein. Call me Frankenstein.
No, do not hurt Anthony.
I forgot. We're in person.
But yeah, so, and he says all this stuff. He's not fighting it because it's not my war. So we see Frank. He's gone from, you know, vigilante to a protector.
And then the Red Goblin appeared at the very final page for teasers.
And
the new Punisher, the Red Goblin.
So that basically concludes the story of Frank, at least to this point. He's left Earth where, you know, where Strange, everyone else, they can't get to him, and he's decided to be a protector, basically. You know, it's like how his wife said when she came back to him, "You're the one that keeps us safe, aren't you, Frank?" So I think that's somewhat fitting. You see an axe on his back in like the end, so you know he's still probably going to punish some people, but maybe not to the extent he did before. Now he's going, instead of being the vigilante, he's the protector. And I don't know, I don't like that being his end because I've always liked him killing bad guys. But
I mean, this isn't really the end for Frank, because he's still Frank. But it's the end of the Punisher. We won't have any more Punisher now, right?
well,
It's all over.
no, that's not the case. As I found out, as they released in San Diego Comic-Con, there's a new Punisher series coming in November. This one, it turns out to be an old SHIELD agent, Joe Garrison. The skull is somewhat different. He's obviously holding SHIELD weaponry, and I think on the side I see a SHIELD patch in like the pictures that we've seen of Joe Garrison. So this is going to be a new Punisher. I mean, much like James Bond, they replaced Frank with a blonde guy, just like they made a blonde James Bond. But I don't know how I feel about that. Personally, I think it somewhat makes sense because in one fell swoop, Natasha Romanoff was able to completely remove all of Frank's safe houses, all of Frank's assets, which makes me wonder if SHIELD is like, you know, this guy, you know, he doesn't kill innocents. He only kills the bad people. He might be useful in the future. So let's just let the Punisher stay around until this happened. So maybe they actually want to make sure that there is a Punisher, you know, that because when it turns out that, you know, everyone realizes that the Punisher's disappeared, that's when you're going to start seeing, you know, all the bad guys come out of the woodwork because they don't have to worry about this guy anymore. And, you know, SHIELD, everyone else, they have their bigger problems. So now SHIELD is like, well, dang it, we like Frank. Well, so it's like, here, Joe, go do what he does. So I don't know, I'm a member of a lot of Punisher forums, and I think the overwhelming majority are like, well, if it's not Frank, then it's not the Punisher. I'm like, well, Superman died and a bunch of other Supermen came about. There's, Green Lantern, there's, Guy Gardner, Hal Jordan,
multiple Ant-Man, and a couple people have been Iron Man.
Yeah, we've even had Iron Hearts, and it's like, think of how many Spider-Men there are. Maybe this could be good for the Punisher. Maybe they'll realize, we can bring Frank back somehow.
And is this the first time that anybody who has taken the mantle of the Punisher, somebody that's not Frank then?
Actually, not really, because there was also, there was Rachel Cole Alves, who in the Joe Rucka run, he basically mentored her. She came back for the Rosenberg run.
Greg Rucka or Joe? I'm not familiar with Joe.
Greg Rucka.
Greg Rucka.
Yeah, and then
there went Johnny Blaze.
Yeah.
Yeah, then there was also it was introduced in the old run Euro hit, Nigel Higgins, a British Punisher who went by the name of Outlaw.
Okay.
There was a guy whose life was saved by the Punisher called Payback. He wore the Punisher skull with a crossed out symbol on it, but he was a Punisher ally, though I don't understand that one. There was also Lynn Michaels, who was another police officer that he had saved, and she got tired of the system. So there are a lot of, there was always the Punisher, but there were people who took on the skull.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think this, this could be like the Dan Ketch to Johnny Blaze. So I want to see how it goes. There are always going to be Punisher fans, so even if somebody writes a fan story or something, I don't think we're done with Frank just yet.
And before we get your thoughts on this particular series as a whole, we'll go around the table. Kirby, you've been reading this. What are your thoughts on this 12-issue run as a whole, and how did you feel about reading it?
Hated it. No, I liked everything up until Captain America and the crew came in, and Doctor Strange and all that. They pretty much ruined the whole storyline. It was going all right until that happened. But I was kind of irritated, whereas the hand members that Frank put under his care and allowed to live didn't do shit and walked away. That irritated me. Then you get down in the basement and you're dealing with Doctor Strange, and Wolverine, and Natasha. All these people killed many of people themselves, and they're just on Frank big time for something that, I don't know, did we even get any type of description of what set them off to go after Frank at the beginning of this book that they've been hunting him down, obviously, for? Because his war with Ares and stuff, why would that bother him? I don't understand.
Because it started with Daredevil, right? He was the first one to come in.
Right.
I think they were all just upset about the new Punisher symbol.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The internet manifested itself into the Avengers.
But yeah, it's like I never got anything saying that this is the reason that Cap, Wolvie, and all them are after Punisher.
Was it just the idea
he's been doing this his whole life, and they're right now just saying, okay, you killed too many people, now we're gonna kill you for it.
Was it maybe just as access to this power that they were kind of getting a little preemptive?
Too much power to kill bad.
So they want to kind of get ahead of it.
He had never before actually. He had never before in one fell swoop taken out hundreds of people of an international human trafficking cartel like he did in this matter. I think one of his biggest hits was in the Garth Ennis run, where he killed 200 mob members that were at a celebration of a 100-year-old man's birthday, who was the first person he shot. So,
but again,
so, yeah,
he used his powers to take out a vast majority of bad people.
Yeah, they're
Whereas
slavers.
you got Wolverine, who's killed who knows what on his way to becoming a mutant.
Natasha's definitely had her past.
Natasha's had her past.
For Wolverine, it might have been a jealousy thing.
Yeah,
there was a time when he
Short
was
man
the best
syndrome.
at what he did, and maybe the Punisher was, getting to be a little too good at what he was doing.
there also was the time that the Punisher shot Wolverine in the crotch, shot his face off, and then parked the steamroller on top of his head so he wouldn't follow him either. So I think he might have been raw about that one.
But Wolverine can't die, so
Yeah.
But I
you
can
do stuff
imagine
like
at least
that.
part of that would be a little painful.
Just a little.
And then I liked Moon Knight, how he just basically played a psychiatrist. Frank didn't have to talk at all, nothing. They just went through their thing. And then the final mafia guy, he wasn't any type of hitman or nothing. He was a moron that walked around shooting bullets everywhere. And that's how a bullet ended up in Frank's daughter because of him. And the guy didn't hit anything else but trees and bushes along the way. And then Maria coming back and this whole thing with her selling his assets, going off, start a new life. I mean, she's a walking corpse for Christ's sakes, and now she's pregnant. So
Oh, yeah.
you wondered it. That's where we got. Frank Punisher. From a walking corpse that decides to have a baby. I mean, that's just so stupid at the end of the storyline. They had to bring that into. I don't know. These last two issues really disappointed me. Kind of just like took the wind out of the whole thing. But the weird world part at the end, I'm up for that.
Mhm.
Give me a series on that. I'll gladly see that. There's no other Avengers and stuff that are gonna be fighting amongst themselves and then accusing people that are actually out there doing something.
And personally, I've never seen Weird World. I don't know what Weird
Yeah.
World is. I'm guessing it's weird.
I was gonna ask that too.
I don't know what it is, so I'd love to learn more about it.
It pops
Yeah.
in from time to time throughout Marvel Comics, and just kind of like they're, you got the Savage Land, they got the
Mm.
Weird World. It's just kind of, it's a thing that exists.
I was gonna ask, is it an analog for Hell? Because I could, there's a lot of bad guys in Hell that the Punisher could take out.
Well,
I don't know.
That would just be, like giving a meat.
Yeah, that was mentioned too. And Dr. Strange said you're gonna go see Sinestro when you die.
Mephisto.
Or Mephisto.
Sinestro is Yellow Lantern.
And it's like,
Which would also be interesting for me to see.
but yeah, I'd rather read Deadpool and Frankencastle teaming up over and over a bunch of these. This is a really good one. It's fun.
So it's got that.
Weird World, in parentheses, Battle World. Wow, there's a lot of worlds and syllables. I'll just say this. It was one of the domains on Battle World,
Okay.
one that contains sorcery and strange perverted science for its composed fragments of many magical ... I didn't click on it.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's been a concept. It has its own series that's out there
I
too.
got some Battle World comics. So.
But yeah, like the Secret Wars in the Battle World and Weird World and Wild World of Sports, all that stuff.
Well, it's a battle world. He probably feels at home in it.
Yeah.
David, as a spectator in this Punisher run that maybe you jumped in from time to time, showing up here at the club and kind of hearing this discussion, kind of what are your thoughts on this run from what you've gained from what we've talked about in the ending?
Everything that I know about this run was basically what I heard today.
Okay, so you didn't catch one of the random episodes.
Yeah, I haven't been really following along or whatever. And yeah, I've missed all of the conversations. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was aware just through hearing, that when the Punisher was getting this new symbol, and then there's questions about why he was changing to that, and what the story was that went with it. I'm sure by now a lot of people have adopted the new one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in all of the Disneyland, Disney World merchandise shops, I bet. So
Yep.
Yeah, I see them on some of the police are carrying that around now.
Don't get me started on those guys.
but yeah. Anyways,
But yeah, no, it looks interesting. They do this. I mean, this is the first different story, that they've done with Punisher. It's not the craziest thing that they've done or whatever. Just like any other character, it's usually, hey, we're gonna take some time and we're gonna do something different, and maybe it's really different for the character. See how it goes. Even with having a new Punisher coming up, I bet that it's only a matter of time before Frank will be back. to Earth, regular realm and whatever, with no magic or anything. Just, filling the bad guys full of bullets.
One can hope.
A good time for that to happen is if John Bernthal showing up in the new MCU stuff. So they probably have a plan to eventually bring him back to the Skull. Jumping over to Katie, I think you've probably had been here for every discussion. Any thoughts and just kind of what you've kind of gleaned from this Punisher run?
Sure. So I actually kind of regret not reading it. Might have to pick it up in the future, but I've enjoyed hearing about it. From what I understand, basically everything I know about the Punishers from Eric bringing Punisher books. I enjoyed it. I do feel like it was a little more story driven versus character driven, that the Avengers just show up. Because they've collectively done some pretty violent things themselves. Don't know that I'd be mad about hundreds of human traffickers and slavers getting taken out in one go. That seems like an absolute win to me. But I've liked it. The idea of Maria being a reanimated corpse but can sustain a pregnancy is a little weird, but comic books, you guys, we'll make it happen. Nothing too much to say, but I have enjoyed hearing about it. And excited to see where it goes next. Punisher and Weird World could be fun.
Cool. Going into this run, I didn't really have any attachment to the Punisher. Hold on. But because of the news and because of the topic of the whole skull change and everything, and I love Jason Aaron. I've read a lot of his comics for Marvel, as well as, this is a double header because he's also the writer of the other book we're talking about here. So I knew that this would be a fun thing to kind of jump into, and I really like the idea of taking the character with all those flashbacks. I mentioned at every issue that I love all the Paul Azaceta drawn flashbacks going into Frank's history, starting off as a child and just all the stuff going back to the big moment in the park, and her whispering about getting ready to say that she wanted a divorce, and then the massacre happened, and being able to kind of thread in some new stuff in there that doesn't change anything that happened in that day. It just added on to some other, behind the scenes stuff. So I definitely liked all that. As far as Punisher going forward, I'd be curious to see, because I'm sure you'll come to the club with the brand new Punisher issue. I mean, I'm assuming. So I am excited to. I haven't looked into the creative team or anything like that. That will be a sell for me. But as Kirby mentioned, with the Weird World stuff, and that is something that I would be very interested in picking that up because of this run. As far as Punisher as a title going forward, I'm going to kind of leave that to the creative team, and then kind of hearing Eric talk about it, being like, oh, that does look interesting, knowing that it spawned out of this, and I'm more so curious. But I did enjoy the 12-issue run. I didn't regret, picking this up. It was an interesting ride, and it's going to get me to pick up some more comics that come out from this. So I think that's a win.
And another potential down the road is, I'm trying to think of the name, who does the Marvel, like the kitty covers and stuff
Like
that.
Scotty Young.
Right. Maybe he'll get to do a Punisher, like a Punisher baby.
I would love to see Scotty Young do the Punisher.
Maybe that's where this is going with the pregnancy and whatever. We'll get like a baby Punisher.
Well, he already has a living daughter, so.
Oh, okay.
They did tease the Spider-Verse Spidey Punisher cover.
Nice.
So he could be taking a new job on.
See, you had mentioned Spawn, like it spawned out the series, and I'm like, you know what? Spawn and the Punisher could work.
Just give him his own,
Two people
suit
that
of
have
armor.
weapons but don't need them. But
Yep.
they're forced to use it.
Yeah, cool. And then going back full circle here, this run as a whole, as a big Punisher fan, how do you feel with having this in your collection?
I like it because right now it seems like a really good bookend to, I have the Essential Punisher all the way to this one now. So it's definitely it's an interesting bookend, and I'm just trying to figure out if I leave this at the end of my current Punisher box and put the new Punisher series in with the rest of my Marvel comics, or I don't know. I think it's like a really good, just keep the Punisher boxes frank for now at least.
Frank box.
Yeah.
Castle box. Box of castles. There's some sort of word here.
Yeah, you're not coming up with it this time. I'm happy for that.
All right. Any closing thoughts before we close the book on this Punisher run? All right. I think we will move on, and that'll be that. We will jump over to another Jason Aaron written book, Once Upon a Time at the End of the World, issue number 7, which I do not have a copy and paste synopsis of, so I will kind of run us through. If you listen back to the previous episode, we talked about issue 6 being a pretty crazy turn of events for the story, just to put it lightly. This apocalyptic world, we jumped into a big time jump and jumped into our Mason Mezzi characters growing up and doing a bunch of things together. We are in a public space, not only outside in David's residence, but also just within a neighborhood. So there's certain things that the issue, there was a lot to look at. No. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff happened in that last one. It was a very nudity heavy issue that kind of ended on a point of kind of discovering a new place, of looking for this, getting out of the wastelands and looking for this oasis, and coming across a new territory that we see the rapid development of within this issue. So this is the second issue into book 2 of this series. And before we jump into it, I will mention Jason Aaron, Lila Del Duca, Tamara Bondvillain.
Bondvillain.
I think that every single time.
It's Bondvillain, B-O-N villain. And then I had troubled over this last time because I don't see any letterers. I put a letter and editor in the same word.
No letter editor.
Yeah. But there, I'll just name Jared K. Fletcher, Madison Goyette, Caroline Butler, and Daphne Laban, just in case any of those people I just mentioned did the letters. But yeah, anyways, so yeah, this is jumping into just through the overview of discovering this Golganuza. Kind of Golganuza. Basically, Mason Mezzi kind of creating this community, finding a way to bring in other people to kind of lead them there, and creating a new society, a new life. We've definitely seen themes of this in like The Walking Dead. Anytime they found like a new, safe zone and new community, and obviously it doesn't take too long in The Walking Dead until that all, just goes to hell, and I can only imagine something like that's going to happen in this kind of book as well. But as far as this issue goes, it shows a lot of hope for this world of all these people that are finding this place, this new sanctuary, and taking the ideas that Mason Mezzi have learned, and creating that environment, stuff that they've done out in the wild, stuff that they've done, when Mace had his own little house at the beginning of the story, and having all these fun little rooms, and all this stuff is now being incorporated into a much bigger fashion for everybody to enjoy. So that's just kind of the overview of that. We'll go around the table with people who have been checking this out. Thoughts on issue number 7, Eric?
Really interesting, the society that they built. They have built the perfect anarcho-communist society where everyone's contributing. There's no central form of government, but people are there. They're there to help each other out. They're there to make each other happy, which is really good. And I also have to say, one thing that I really like about this, even though they're all touchy-feely, they have a healthy understanding of the concept of affirmative consent. May I give you a hug? Yes, hug. And it's just like, I think we can at least learn from that.
It's a constant theme throughout every different person that comes through this book. They've made a point of that.
And I'm just like, good. It's just, there's free love, touchy-feely, but it's on their own terms. So, and that's good. Like a society like that seems like Anthony said, too good to exist, and we'll find that out. Although, I do have to just wonder one thing. We've like gone over how the entire like the past 2 issues have been very sparse at clothing. I just have to ask though, at the end of out in the wasteland, who takes the time to shave everything?
Yeah.
I'm just like,
that's true.
I mean, I'd have to say I understand. I mean, like the whole beauty standard where women have to shave their leg. Does that matter in the wasteland? And it's why do they take the time to do that? And you don't even have the clean water or necessarily. I'm just like,
I imagine it's going to be something that, because Jason Aaron is the writer of this, that he's probably going to lend that over to the new creative team for the Punisher in the weird world, that he's probably going to start shaving too. So we're going to get a clean shaven, Frank Castle. That's an image for Eric to shake his head at. Jump over to Kirby. Thoughts on this issue?
It's not really keeping my attention anymore. It's basically a commune. We don't want to have to worry about no pregnancy or anything because they're already jumping us again.
Yeah.
3 years, 5 years, whatever. Years in the future. It's like, really, we need to keep doing this jumping around crap. Do the whole Adam Eve thing with finding the first fruits. That's going to have a big effect in the future because the plant's growing out of the middle of the earth or wherever these vines are coming from. It's going to either turn people into something or it's going to bring us new creatures or who knows what. But yeah, I don't hate it. I do want to know where it goes, but I have one more issue pre-ordered and I stopped it at 8. I'm not going into 9 or on. If I hear people talking that it's gotten better, I'll trade it out. But yeah.
It's understandable. When we brought this on as a club pick, that first book of 5 issues that we read was a very specific theme. And then the start of this new book was a wildly different approach to it, which obviously still dealing with our characters, but they feel like 2 separate books in that sense of just how quick that turned over. And when we decided as a club to continue on for the next arc, because I'm like, well, I'm definitely picking this up, and we all kind of agreed, and not knowing what was to come, I am still enjoying it. But yeah, I can understand how this feels like a different book than what we started with, but time will tell. Jump over to Katie.
Sure. So I'm about 50-50 on this book, whether I like it or am ambivalent to it, but the last few pages hooked me. There appears to be a geological problem that's occurring, and that made me really interested. I'm like, okay, I'll get a couple more. What else? So I want to praise the hopeful attitude of this book compared to the first arc, where they achieved their goal, right? They have found paradise and they are building a new and better life for themselves than what they have known. I find it a little humorous because you can tell that it's like 2 young people, where one who came from extreme deprivation and like everything to the letter, right, paired up with someone who had basically free reign to do whatever they want, but no guidance or boundaries, come together and are like, all right, how are we going to make a life? Because, they got practical things like a kitchen and an engine room. And then they're like, hey, let's build like a Christmas themed hot spring, which, okay, I would visit the Christmas hot spring. That sounds awesome. So that was kind of cool. And I felt like probably true to life, because I imagine they're like early to mid 20s where, yeah, you still don't necessarily like have a lot behind you to like inform your decisions, and you still have a certain amount of hope about the world that you're working through. So I saw that in here. I enjoyed seeing them build their oasis. I would have liked to have seen a little more of that, but I understand for stylistic purposes why we got it kind of in chunks. There was a line in there where they're like, oh, everything's been great. It's wonderful. We haven't had to ask anyone to leave. And I feel like that's a Chekhov's gun moment right there, where we're going to have to ask someone to leave. I felt like that was setting things up. And how I was thinking how I feel like the Callista lady might be either a red herring or a secret bad guy, but I have no proof of that. That's just a guess. But I liked it. I think I'm going to give it 1 or 2 more issues. I feel kind of bad because I recommended keep going with it, and it's been it's been a departure
Yeah.
from what we were expecting. But I want to give it a shot. Jason Aaron, I feel is a very solid creator, has excellent vision. I don't think any of the things that they did were meant to be like really confrontational or like purposely upset people. So I'll give it a few more, but I'm 50-50. But there's something that happens in the last couple of pages with this infinite power source that can power them from here to eternity that seems like it's going to be some problems that I'm intrigued by.
Then our first arc, we had several teases of the far, far, far future that was
Oh, that's right.
very much in tone with what that first arc was like, where seeing all of this happiness and all this joy and all this safeness, we know that eventually, obviously things are gonna go wrong. So we still had that tease. We didn't get any of that stuff so far in the new book, but in that first book, they would just cut to a very tortured future, and so yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of see if this goes away as quick as it showed up. A couple things I liked is once again just kind of seeing all of the fun things that came from Mace's home when Mezzi had found him, and there's a sign out front of Golgan Nuza that has pointing directions of where things are. Freedom over here, Hot Springs there, Discovery, Slides, Candy Vault, Garden of Delight, and then my favorite is more slides.
Yay.
More slides over this way, and then self-expression. And then the other thing I love seeing being brought back, and I just have to cover up some things that I don't want to show on the window, but there's a pillow fight room with the pillow fight dome. So yeah, there's a pillow fight dome that shows up. So I liked all those kind of fun things. Once again, rooted from where we first saw Mace, but yeah, it's probably won't take too long until things go bad again. And
we do have the green ooze
Yeah.
appearing in the end, so I don't
Seems sus.
see if Ninja Turtles are coming in.
let's see.
Then I might stick out.
That would be a good
the-
crossover.
In the original one, was it where we saw old Maseo?
Yeah.
We saw like a lot of mutants and stuff around him. So
Oh, that's a good point.
there's also when I think wasn't he like some kind of mechanical Swiss Army man too?
Yeah.
In the future.
Yeah, you pretty
So-
much replace his body for.
And then Boom has Power Rangers, which has done a crossover with the Ninja Turtles, so it's not too far fetched to keep turtles in universe.
Yeah,
We're
we can
reading
do it.
another book currently that just so happens to be placed in the Transformers G.I. Joe world.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess what you're saying is it's possible that this endless power supply could be turtle power.
Oh,
That's a good point.
that was a radical contribution. Okay, well, I think that is going to do it then for Once Upon a Time at the End of the World #7. We'll move on with the future issues, maybe, as we go through. Everyone's always obviously welcome to jump off at any time. But yeah, I have a feeling that this could be, the last time we covered as a club for this art, as much as that goes, as we don't, if this goes on 100 issues, we're not covering it 100 issues. We just kind of, follow a short mini series run, whatever, and go from there. Future picks, which is out now: Berserker, Poetry of Madness, which is a one-shot. Marvel Age 1000, which comes out in August. It's a one-shot. Marvel Unleashed #1. I think it's a 4-issue miniseries with the Marvel Pets. I think that's scheduled for September, maybe. I forget if that's August or September. Alligator Loki #1, which is a one-shot. And then once again, future issues of Once Upon a Time. So that is going to do it then for the club discussion. Let's jump over to the weekly reviews. Welcome to the weekly reviews. I'm going to kick it off with a very special one. At the time of this recording, we are in the month of July, and there seems to be a lot of celebration for Christmas in July.
Yay.
It happened on the radio station that I listened to. I turned it on the other day, and there was a Christmas song playing, and I was very confused of what was going on. But it was a Christmas in July celebration. I know Jim, one of our club members, couldn't make it one of the weeks because his family celebrated Christmas in July. So I figured, you know what, I'm going to take advantage of that with this title here, Betty and Veronica Jumbo Comics #309, which may also be known as a double digest #309. They kind of interchange the names there. Up to her eyes in credit card bills, Veronica is forced to take on a department store job wrapping gifts. She's so bad at it that she recruits Betty to help her, but when Betty can't make it, she receives some magical help in the form of Jingles the elf. But when Sugar Plum and Noel from the North Pole join to help, it becomes a calamity of too much holiday help. These digests here, what they've been doing, they've been using the lead story as a brand new story. This one's called All Wrapped Up. It's done by Dan Parent for story and pencils, Bob Smith on inks, Glenn Whitmore on colors, and Jack Morelli on letters. And so they lead with a brand new story, 5-pager usually, and then the rest of the digest is consisting of reprint stories that are holiday themed. So we see them throughout the decades. We see some superhero stories that are holiday themed, some, very specific Betty and Veronica ones. Sabrina, there's some Sabrina stories in here as well. So there's, roughly, I think there's like 200 pages of stories throughout the 80 years of Archie continuity. But in order to get the people to keep buying them, and the little incentive was to lead with a brand new story. Now, the reason I'm talking about this one, I'm just like, I'm like, I wanted to bring up that Christmas in July. So I was reading that All Wrapped Up story, and I'm seeing I'm sure this is a story they've done several times, having, Veronica having credit card bill problems, and, Hiram Lodge comes in. I'm sure that's just a staple in Archie comics that, every decade that, there's probably several people that go and revisit that and do their own spin on it. And that's what they're doing here, putting Veronica into the mall. So Hiram Lodge owns this department store, Shempley's, which she is then sent to go work at. And she's there at the counter. She's going to be doing some gift wrapping. And they very quickly learn about how bad she is at wrapping gifts. But Betty happens to be walking by. So it's a perfect time for Betty to jump in and help her friend Veronica. And while all this stuff is going on, what was so random about me picking up this specific digest, number 309 out of all numbers, it's just so wacky and wild and weird. It was a weird world, just to try to pronounce that word again. So I'm going through and I'm reading this here, watching the scene play out. I'm like, there's always background players going on in Archie comics, and people that are either related to the story, kind of giving a weird look, kind of catching people off guard. And I was like, what the heck is going on here? There's a guy that is down in this corner right here that I'm showing on the Zoom screen that just happens to look like me. So yeah, sure enough, that is me. I checked the record books, and myself, Anthony, has made my first ever cameo in Archie Comics. So I showed up. So I showed up in Archie Comics thanks to Dan Parent. I kind of teased it over the last year or two. He had launched a Kickstarter with the character of Kevin Keller that he had created, and it's been 10 years of Kevin Keller comics. So they kickstarted a giant 700-page hardcover that included all stories, his own self-titled comics, anytime he would appear in Veronica's story where he first showed up, and a very successful Kickstarter. And one of the tiers for donating was to be drawn in a future issue of Archie Comics. That was something that I was really, hot off the heels of that X-Ray Robot. If you've never heard of it, X-Ray Robot number 3. I think I've told some of you people about that.
Once or twice.
I appear in there. Going off of that excitement, and I decided to once that was an option to be drawn into Archie Comics, I had a certain number in my head that was much higher than the number that they offered. That number they offered also included the T-shirt, the bookmarks. I think there was sticker sheets. There was several 11 by 17 prints. The 700-page hardcover. It included all buttons. I think it just included so much stuff, as well as to be drawn in. So over the last year or so, talking with Dan Parent, and there was a fun moment when I got a nice email in my inbox with a pencil drawing of my appearance, asking what I thought of it, and it was pretty exciting because all I expected was just to be a random head in a crowd. If they're at a football game or something, I didn't know where it was going to be printed, but I didn't expect anything more than just a random floating head, and you take out your magnifying glass, be like, oh yeah, that does kind of look like Anthony.
Yeah, easily turn your head into a football.
You think so? Yeah, yeah.
Bet that
You think so? Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Just laces out. I remember that laces out. I only know that because of lace maker. I don't know that because of sports.
What they're already doing, what they're already doing instead is a football.
That's right. Yeah. Not just
Yeah.
surprise. That was in confidence.
Sorry.
See, I was
Yeah.
thinking
Sorry.
we'd get
See,
a.
I was
thinking we'd get a Hey Arnold 30th
comic
anniversary
special or something like
comic.
that.
There we
So I
go.
was special or
Yeah, he's a
something like
football head.
that. So I always
Um,
football head.
Yeah, in the he had shown me the pencils and putting me walking through a scene and being the third character in the scene right there with Betty and Veronica. And the bonus was that going in closer is that I am looking at Betty. Dan Parent knows that I am a Betty fan, or the classic question of Betty or Veronica. And I had joked being like, hey, I'll give you an extra $50 if you have me looking at Betty or in a scene with Betty. That was the thing. And just throwing that out there, he laughed, reacted, whatever. He never asked for any extra payment, but he did throw me in that scene. I was just floored when I saw that. So that's been my lock screen forever. And yep, it still is.
Nice.
And I don't think I'll ever change it because kind of being part of the 80 years of history, a very small part of that, but that's within the Betty and Veronica. Then the bonus thing is that I wanted to buy the original art. I had debated if I was going to bring that to the outside club, not knowing the weather elements and, being here
Mhm.
longer and pet elements and where it was going to be. I didn't want to bring the original art here, but he did offer me a good price on the original page
Cool.
that I appear on, and then gave me a super huge, awesome price if I wanted to buy all 5 pages of
Oh,
that story
sweet.
that I appear in. And so I took them up on that offer, and they're 11 by 17 pages. I do show them off and tell a little deeper story on the Archie episode of Cartoonist by Night.
Okay.
So if you check out Cartoonist by Night on YouTube, we have an entire episode about Archie, and I talk about it there, and I show off the art pages and more commissions and stuff like that, more of the interactive stuff. Because once again, I don't even know if video for this episode will show up. So it's all out there ready. David?
And I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with it. What is this Cartoonist by Night thing?
Oh, Cartoonist by Night is a drawing show that I co-created. I'm a host of with myself and former guest on this podcast, Troy Dungara, who will be a future guest coming up in August. And then as well as Matt Fife and Matt Rogers of Happy Astronaut. So check out Cartoonist by Night on YouTube for there's probably like a dozen hours up there ready, and
Yeah.
there's many more being edited. Not as we speak, but it's waiting to, it's on pause right now. But yeah, so this experience being drawn in, as awesome as it was with X-Ray Robot being drawn by my favorite artists, Mike and Laura Allred, I didn't think it could really get better than that. And then somehow this Archie thing kind of threw in there, just because with X-Ray Robot, I have to explain to a lot of people like who Michael Allred is,
Mhm.
what this comic is, and a lot of people don't know that. I don't have to explain Archie comics to anybody,
Yeah.
It's a pretty quick concept, and so yeah, it feels pretty crazy to be part of that history, a very small part, but here I am in print. Betty and Veronica, Jumbo Comics, otherwise known as Double Digest, number 309. All right, let's jump over to Scrapper. Oh, I see you were drawn in on the. Oh wait,
Oh,
that's
cool.
not you up there. No, okay. There's a little mouse or a rat on the. That's not.
Rat on a dog's head. Anyway, Scrapper number 1
Oh,
by
that's good.
Image Comics. There's a dog, so of course, animals. I like animals better than people. Written by Cliff Blazinski.
Weird world.
Who
That's how
I
you pronounce
believe,
it.
who I believe actually has written for Gears of War.
Oh, that sounds right.
Okay, he made the
Creator.
video game. Okay, yeah, created, founder, whatever. I mean, yeah,
He had
He's-
something to do with it.
yeah, a little part
One of the
anyway.
biggest video game releases.
Yeah, never played it. So, anywho, Scrapper you find is a dog in a dystopian city that exists under the dome. It's run by SMITE, which stands for Special Monopoly for Industrial Tech and Engineering.
Is it a pillow fight dome?
No, at least none that I have found yet. So you see that essentially Scrapper and his pal Tank, who's like a one-eyed puppy, old dog with arthritis. They make patrols trying to get rid of rats for the restaurant that Scrapper lives in. But Scrapper also, you find out, he has an eye out for the neighborhood, and he knows a lot more than a typical animal would, because he notices that, okay, that, okay, Smite owns everything under the dome. People, they keep on reproducing, so real estate starts becoming, you know, a major commodity. And he wants to know why Smite hasn't developed this one area, which just happens to be a drug house as well. Find out that he sees a bunch of drug dealers taking a kid. He runs to you know, basically rescue them, jumps on this flying car, and much like the old Bolt movie, he goes bark and sends their car haywire somehow. He rescues a little girl, talks to the little girl, and you find out that, okay, the kid can understand him, because right now he's been talking to rats, pigeons, and, you know, his pal Tank, but you don't think people can't. But yeah, this girl can understand him, and she's amazed at it. But, you know, it goes into his backstory, basically, that he was found by people who own this Italian restaurant. He has this really odd mechanical collar on him. And, you know, he basically, you know, he gets to live there by chasing away all the rats. And I thought this was a really cute one. Rat tries to pulls a shiv on him.
As rats do.
It's like,
That's awesome.
Right, stab you. And, you know, when you're going against a German Shepherd, I don't want to have just a half of scissors. But
Don't bring a knife to a German Shepherd fight.
yeah,
That's how that saying goes.
probably you just be nice to the doggies. That's just that's one thing I'm always worried about. That if I were to ever have a police German Shepherd sicked on me, I wouldn't be able to resist the urge to turn around and go puppy. Then I'd probably die. But the Italian restaurant that he protects becomes targeted by Smite for redevelopment, and for reasons unknown, he just completely hulks out, turns into like super scrapper, and destroys an enforcer bot. But then, you know, after he destroys the enforcer bot, and, you know, the restaurant is gone, his collar activates, says battle mode activated. Welcome to Smite Project Cerberus. So, you know, the big dystopian bad organization has now apparently welcomed him with open arms, even though he already has bad feelings about it, which is odd because you never see dogs in politics. They're just feed me, scratch my butt, I need to poop here. Good. So, but yeah, I think this is, you know, like, this does a good job of, you know, setting it up. You get to see, like, you know, it's kind of, I think of it like a Disney animal on crack. I mean, this animal knows about politics. He's able to hulk out the, you know, the animals around him, you know, they talk to him, but, you know, some of them are stupid. Like the pigeons is like, oh, look, it's Scrapper, come down. Notice me, senpai. Ooh, look, a French fry. Why am I down here again? But yeah, I kind of makes me want to see Gears of War, because if they have this kind of humor in there as well, maybe I should actually start playing it. I don't know.
Well, I was hanging over your shoulder, hoping that we'd see a cog in there, like a gear
Yeah.
type thing or some type of symbolization, especially when they showed the collar.
No gear.
Or with
Sorry.
the characters. I figured they'd have 4 dogs that kind of might have played off the Gears of War characters' names, but yeah,
But yeah,
Cliff's a pretty impressive character in his own. And I was happy to see him jumping in the comic world, and I wanted to get that, but I figured I'd hold off and hear some reviews and go for a trade down the line. But yeah, after looking at it now,
but yeah,
definitely interested.
it's a dog, so I already like him better than most people. So, but yeah, I don't know where it's going to go, because obviously he hates Smite and he's a project of Smite. So, but yeah, let's see where that goes.
All right. Meow, let's jump over to Kirby. What you got?
Catwoman Soulstealer.
Nice.
It's been 2 years since Selena Kyle last set eyes on Gotham City, and now that Batman is gone, Selena is back. Or rather, Holly Vanderhees is. As Gotham's newest socialite, she'll put her old talent for picking pockets to new use while rubbing shoulders with the city's finest citizens. But her past is catching up to her, and she is running out of time. Luke Fox has been looking for just the right opportunity to show Batman he can protect the city from Gotham's worst as Batwing. When several high-profile fundraisers are disturbed, Luke's clandestine activities clash with his parents' expectations as the scion of one of Gotham's finest families. He's expected to attend these events with pride. As Batwing, he's trying to stop a new team of villains from ruining his mother's plans. Now he feels permanently one step behind. Will Selina have what it takes to outsmart Batwing before it's too late? Or will she be the final victim of her greatest heist yet? I found this really cheap at a half-price bookstore, so I picked it up. Sadly, it's mostly origin story again. You're going back to her childhood before she's Catwoman. You're getting to learn about her sister that has a certain disease. We even go in where she goes and steals a certain black cat statue, which I've read about her stealing many times before. I liked it. I liked the origin pullback. She plays this gal basically in her childhood, she gets into a lot of trouble trying to get enough money to help keep her sister going with her disease and the cost and everything, and they're basically living on their own. Parents gone, ma's a wreck, all that, and eventually the law catches up to her and they take her sister away. They separate them, put her in one place, put Selina in another place. Selina gets a counselor that comes up to her, and it just so happens to be one of the Leagues of Assassins, a cool character, a female. It's part of the family, and she takes Selina in for a few years, puts her through the training and all that, and gets her set up with the League of Assassins. Well, after a few years of doing that, she comes back to Gotham and decides to start building her own little group of characters. And while she does that, League of Assassin characters are being sent to basically take Selina out for leaving the League and all that stuff. Because when she left the League, she just so happened to steal some stuff from the League and to finance her way to get to where she had to and all that. But yeah, she ends up in a penthouse, and just so happens next door to her penthouse, she thought she had the whole upper floor, but there's two penthouses up there, and Luke Fox is in the other one. So you can imagine they're going back and forth. He's chasing her, she's messing with him. Eventually, they start falling for each other, all that. And at the same time, her little clan that she's building is with Poison Ivy, and she tells Poison Ivy to make sure you get Harley in our clique. Promise her I will break the Joker out of jail and all this, and help Harley anyway, as long as she joins their crew, and then they do their little heist and all that, and so a bunch of stuff happens throughout here. But eventually, when it gets to the Joker part and stuff, Harley gets her little attitude and basically injures Selina enough to kill her, or put her near death. And at the same time, Selina, the reason she came back to this part and the reason she wanted to hook up with Ivy is to learn more about the ley lines, so she can get what are the chambers that they revive people in?
Lazarus pits.
Lazarus pit. She knows of a known Lazarus pit, and that's where she's trying to get to. But Ivy helps her out figuring out where the ley lines are, so she can pinpoint where the pit would be. And she gets it all set up because she wants to use the pit to basically save her sister from dying, and help her out. And at the same time, she gets injured to the point that she's dying and all that stuff. And yeah, read it to find out all that information. But I really enjoyed it. Only thing I didn't like, again, I mean, the whole Harley Joker part of it. And these girls are like 14, 13 when they're meeting the Joker and stuff, and he's putting her through all this stuff. And I just think that's wrong.
Yeah, agreed.
The mental anguish that you're putting someone that young through, you're putting that in the storyline. I don't think that needed to be there. All that type of information. but he's in jail, so he's obviously way older than her to start with, and they met up at least when she was, I'm guessing, 12 to 14, according to this book, and that's kind of creepy to me. But other than that, it was an interesting look at another revamp of the origin story. But I like where it went with the Lazarus and the League of Assassins and all that. And I really like the Fox, Luke Fox, his whole. I like him as the Batman character better than Batman. He just seems more casual, more enjoyable, and not so tense. And so yeah. And there were points with Luke's parents where certain things happened by their house, and he kind of like took it away from their house so his parents wouldn't be bothered and pulled into any of the stuff. I like how he had respect for certain things and didn't just go straight out, I'm taking you down, put you in jail, never gonna fall in love, never break you out of jail and all this. So, yeah, I like the story better in the old style Batman Catwoman story.
Yeah, and that graphic novel series that DC does, I've talked about some of them on the show. I've got a couple in my pile to read yet. Basically giving the creators the kind of like a black label type of thing where they just kind of tell their own out of continuity type of story. And, you know, a lot of them are being origin stories, but then, you know, mixing in different threads and things like that. And, but yeah, I think they've had a lot of good success and just being very good introductory points for somebody's like, hey, I want to read some Catwoman. And they're like, well, they're on issue 50 right now. And where do I jump in? And yeah, graphic novel series that DC has been doing have been really awesome. And that's something I would really dig if Marvel took that approach on that. Like I would just totally read, you know, this person's take on Iron Man, this person's take on, you know, Black Widow, and rather than doing like mini-series runs and just concentrating on graphic novels in that format. So
yeah, like you said, Louise Simonson, Samantha Dodge, Sarah J. Maas.
Yeah, agreed. That's a pretty cool creative team.
Good. All right, we'll jump over to our last of the weekly picks here. This one I'm very curious about here. What you got, Katie?
All right, this week I have Cursed Princess Club, Volume 1 by Lamcat. That's the creator's pen name. All right, so this basically takes the premise of a fairy tale where the 3 princesses of the kingdom are betrothed to a princess of a neighboring kingdom, and kind of goes from there. I will say, even though that sounds like a pretty concept that's been around for a while and maybe is not the most equality driven, this book makes it so that the girls have buy-in and stuff. So anyway, our main character's name is Gwendolyn. So her sisters are very conventionally pretty. Gwendolyn is a total sweetheart, but she looks a little different. She's got green hair, green skin. And this is our introduction to Princess Gwendolyn, aged 15. Looks a little spooky. I wonder if she's cursed. Anyway, the girls get introduced to their princes who, you know, they're a little awkward themselves. They've had a bit of a sheltered life. And it's going okay. They're sort of hitting it off, but the prince in green, who is Frederick, he's just being really awkward and feels really inept compared to his brothers because, like, you know, they're older than him, they're more handsome than he is, they did better in school, and he gets a little bit taken by surprise by Gwendolyn's unconventional looks, and he just is getting pretty frustrated and feeling put out. He's venting to his brothers that, you know, he just feels like really inept and like, I'm not ready to get married, and how could I do this? How can I ever measure up to what our father wants us to be? And he is having a little bit of, you know, running his mouth, and he says, Gwendolyn is really ugly. And unbeknownst to him, Gwendolyn overheard. It was an accident. She only overheard that part, and you can imagine that would be very, very upsetting for a teenager, or, you know, nobody wants to hear that they're ugly, but especially at 15. So she gets upset, runs out of the house, and runs through the spooky forest and ends up meeting the Cursed Princesses Club. So at the Cursed Princesses Club, just like in the fairy tales, how, you know, Sleeping Beauty gets cursed by the bad fairy Maleficent, and, you know, she's going to prick her finger and then she's going to sleep, or Snow White gets a poisoned apple. all the princesses at the Cursed Princess Club have some kind of curse upon them. And this is their place to get together and kind of, you know, share their struggles living as a cursed princess, but also make new friends and develop life skills. So the page I'm showing, we see a princess who was a lobster princess and got turned into a human. There's a princess who unfortunately lost her eyeballs somehow, and she normally wears a mask over her eyes. And then you see her lift up her eyes, and then she's just got the sockets there. And so Gwen's happy because she's made some new friends. She's excited, you know.
She has eyeballs.
Yeah, she has eyeballs. Things to be grateful for. And, you know, she's mentioning to them, you know, how she got really upset and how, you know, she doesn't feel like she's ready to get married. And especially this prince is just really not nice to her. And they're like, we'll give you some words to like help you kind of role play and talk through letting him know that you just want to be friends. You don't want to get married. And then we see her initiation to the Cursed Princess Club, where they have a big slumber party, and basically based off of how fun she is at the slumber party, she's allowed to join. Of course, she is indeed allowed to join. What else? Oh, there's a side character called a llama called Laverne, who exists in the Prince's Kingdom. So there's the Pastel Kingdom where Gwendolyn's from, and the Plaid Kingdom where Prince Frederick and his brothers are from. And then Laverne is the most pampered llama in the Plaid Kingdom. She shows up for a little bit of comic relief. Gwendolyn, you know, confronting Prince Frederick doesn't go very well because she kind of forgets what she wanted to say. So she comes off as pretty spooky. Like, for example, we see her drawn here with like glowing red eyes and green hair and fangs and stuff. So Prince Frederick gets a little freaked out by that. They all go on a date to the amusement park and go to the haunted house, where Prince Jamie, the girl's brother, basically is trying to talk to Frederick and be like, you know, like you should, you know, really try and get to know Gwendolyn. Because I will say, in the book, everybody acknowledges Gwendolyn for who she is, even though to the reader outside, it's very clear to see that she looks a little different. There might be something going on here. Everyone's like, oh, Gwen, you're so pretty, you're super cute, you're so talented, you have a great heart, all that kind of stuff. So her brother's trying to be like, listen, you know, take it easy on her, you know, why not try? And then back at the Cursed Princesses Club, one of the girls wants to go to prom, and she's going to try and, take a potion she read about in a teen magazine that will make her pretty. And her specific curse is she looks like an old woman. So she wants to take a potion so she can be pretty and go to prom. And it goes a little bit hinky. It doesn't quite work out, but the princesses throw their own prom for her, and everyone has fun dancing the night away and wearing their dresses and being pretty princesses. And then finally at the end of the book, we see why Prince Frederick feels the way he does, and why he is, you know, why he has his own self-confidence problems. And it's because his father is very strict. You know, when he went to military school, like, he was really bad at all of the physical education stuff, and, you know, he got picked on by the other kids. So we see a little bit about why he reacts the way he does. And I want to point out a theme in this book is we have two characters who are outsiders. And in one case, we see Gwendolyn being readily accepted, right? Nobody blinks twice. That's just Gwendolyn, right? And we have Prince Frederick, who has a normal appearance and a pretty regal background, but he is, you know, still having trouble as well and feels like an outsider. So I thought that was an interesting theme, and very good to explore. Would like to see more of where that goes. Here's a little picture of the self-portrait of Lamb Cat. So this book definitely is a very kawaii, cute type book. It's not like a traditional manga, but it definitely has more of a manga style versus Western comics. So I, the reader, think Gwen has some kind of curse, right? We don't know what it is, but I think that's where this is leading up to. So I would enjoy reading more about that. I like how it took the themes of a traditional fairy tale and told them in a way that's a little more well-rounded. I felt like, where the princesses are all people, they all have character, they all have spirit, and they're given an option. Like, yeah, you're gonna get betrothed, but you'll get to meet your betrothed and, you know, go on dates, and you'll be allowed to leave the castle. So I appreciated that, and I liked how they took, you know, yeah, you might be a really cursed princess, and that might be really hard for you, but you know, here you can make friends. Like, here you don't have to worry about the burdens of being royalty, or, oh, I should be pretty, I should be, you know, younger, I should be taller, smarter, whatever, and just make friends. And I thought that was really positive and a nice thing to see, rather than traditional cursed princess getting isolated and having all kinds of problems. I liked it a lot. This is not my regular type of book, but I enjoyed it, and I have issue 2 that I will review soon. So anyway, that's The Cursed Princesses Club by Lambcat, published by Webtoon Unscrolled. So yeah, I think this started life as a webtoon, and now it's published. Check it out.
Yeah,
looks like it reads left to right. Because I was going to ask you.
Oh,
if it looked
yeah.
like it was manga, but you're going from the left to right.
That's a good point. You're correct. Yes, it does. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, and I noticed the Webtoons logo, and I kind of like the idea of, you know, a platform meant for digital comics and easy to upload and, you know, get web artists and stuff. And I didn't know they made physical copies. And
Yeah.
maybe I'm just oblivious to it all, and there's a whole bunch of them, but it's a pretty nice presentation for something that was just a platform for
Yeah.
I think that's pretty sweet. So
Yeah. Very cool. Thank you.
cool. All right, well, our plane's here, so I think it's time to
Okay. Name, boss.
so that is going to do it for this in-person episode of the Crimson Cowl Comic Club. Quick reminder of some of our links. Go to crimsoncowl.com for info about these podcasts and other things that we do in original web comics. Go to Crimson Cowl Comic Club on YouTube to possibly see this video that you are hearing. Hopefully this video will show up, but we have many other videos when we do the club, as well as the Hellboy spin-off podcast. Check out a couple episodes of that for the Hellboy Book Club, which is exclusively for the YouTube channel. The Crimson Cowl, all one word, on Instagram. Crimson Cowl Comic Club on iTunes. If you want to email us, go to crimsoncowlcomicclub@yahoo.com for any questions, concerns, suggestions. Maybe got some fun letters page questions for things that we can answer here on the show. Kirby has a spin-off podcast under the Cowl of MS. Is there anything you want to promote for what just came out or what's coming under the Cowl of MS?
Got some new comic review videos out, some unpacking videos. There's and another drawing video or 2 out by the time you get this. So check them out.
Cool. So yeah, follow Under the Cowl of MS wherever you get your podcasts, and as well as YouTube and all of that. I have some hobby artist account over at Facebook and Instagram, Anthony Latch, LAATSCH, as well as what we talked about, Cartoonist by Night, over on YouTube to check out that drawing show. That is going to do it for this episode. It was exciting to be here in person, to kind of get back into the old ways while still doing it how we do the club. But here we are in person. We're all real.
Yeah.
No, digital glitching in person. Who knows? We'll see how this all turns out. But I think it went well. So that is going to do it for this episode. This whole time, I've been in the background of Archie Comics.
I've been fighting off that damn rat with the shiv.
I've been hanging with the beast in Golganoza, stealing souls.
I've been fresh linen bending Katie's ankles.
And I am a linen fresh scented cursed princess.
To be continued. To be continued. Can you say to be continued?
To be continued.
Thank you, Slimer.